Your room looks more like a dry cleaner's every day.
Yes, all the clothes there, right?
Do this, um, the free speaking part in two stages, right? Just two.
Okay.
So do stage two and a stage three. So you just repeat everything once. And go ahead.
I would like to explore why a person wants to die. I would like to explore why a person would choose to die. Terminally ill patient must be suffering from enormous pain.
You,
A terminally ill,
you first, for your stage two, I want you to do enormous pain.
enormous pain. Ah, this sounds much better and more painful.
Are about keep them with lots of shape, and to give them more kind of stretch.
Enormous pain.
Enormous pain. It can take that even listen. It can take that even within the context and the meaning.
Yes.
It almost makes it almost works for the stage three version in stage two. Enormous, enormous,
Enormous.
enormous pain.
Enormous pain. Ah, a terminally ill patient must be suffering from enormous pain that it is almost unbearable. That the pain is almost unbearable. As a matter of fact, this has to be taken into consideration. As a matter of fact, this has to be taken into consideration.
Consideration that stays a neutral and not go to consideration.
Consideration. Consideration. Consideration.
So you want to say consideration, right?
Yes. Consideration.
Yeah. And that works. Say consideration, and it works.
Consideration.
Substitute the F for the I.
Consideration. Yes. That sounds better. As a matter of fact, this has to be taken into consideration. The right to not suffering, the right to not suffer from pain is part of the right to choose. The right to not suffer from enormous pain is part of the right to choose.
Very nice.
Apart from this, there's also the
We've already done it stage three. Do it. Say it again in stage three, and give it even more. All the tone and the vowels that you hit there were beautiful, but now just give it a little more of the meaning of what you're really saying.
the right the right not to suffer from enormous pain is part of their right to choose.
Or how about if I use intonation more to get that meaning across and say the right not to suffer from enormous pain is part of your choice.
Yes. The right not to suffer from the right not to suffer from enormous pain is part of the right to choose, is part of the right to choose and the choice. Apart from this, there is the economic issue involved. apart from this, there is an economic issue involved. The treatment on terminally ill patients is very expensive. The treatment on terminally ill patients is very expensive. The resources put in treatment on those patients can be put into treatment on other patients.
See, I'm noticing neutral vowels, and I'm not even always calling you out on them.
Okay.
You got to pay closer attention to some of these neutrals, and the one I'm stopping you on here is other.
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 Other
Right.
kind of illness. Okay.
Which means you're going to substitute the neutral for the neutral one, right? And say other.
Other. Other. Other.
That's it.
Other. The cost of treating terminally ill patients is very expensive. From an resources allocation point of view, those money can be put in much more productive use on other purposes. Those
Of other what?
on other medical purposes.
Yeah, purposes. Other purposes.
Our purposes.
Yeah.
On other purposes. Because the budget is limited. It is not a good idea to spend too much money on terminally ill patients who will die whatever. Because the resources and budget are limited, it is unwise to spend too much money on those patients who have no hope to survive. That sounds cruel to them. But if they choose to die, we should respect their choice. It sounds cruel to them, but if they choose to die, we should respect them. Argument for this idea. There's an argument for proper allocation of resources to the need of the
Argument. You've got to get a better number 5R in that. Just like in the word yard. Argument.
Argument. Oh.
That's it.
Argument. Park.
That's it.
Park. Argument. That is the argument to support the allocation of resources. Strong objection from the business, because it is a subsidy of the private enterprise on public medical costs from their perspectives. Medical premium are deducted from the salary. Medical premiums, the insurance premiums for medical costs is deducted from the salary. And as part of the cost of hiring, there is a strong objection from the business to increase the medical premium to subsidize those who are over 65. Currently, those who are over 65 need to pay only 10% of the medical cost. There's a proposal to increase that to 30%. There's a proposal to increase the deduction, the contribution to the medical cost to 30%. However, since all the senior citizens are also voters, there's a strong objection to the increase of the contribution. Since almost all the voters consist of senior citizens, there is strong objection to the idea of increasing the contribution to the medical costs. So within the trend of against the trend of increasing medical costs, which has to be funded, the government look into private enterprise. Against the trend of increasing medical costs, the government has to fund the cost and they look into the private enterprise. It is far easier to increase the medical premium in the working populations than to take it out from the senior citizens who whose vote are more valued in the government's point of view. It is far easier for the government to increase the premium from the working population than to pass the cost to the senior citizens whose vote are almost always valued by the political parties. So now it is in a very critical moment, as there is a proposal to reform the whole medical system in Japan. Now we are in a very difficult and critical moment to find out a way to fund the medical system in Japan. There is a proposal to reform the whole medical system and the pension system in Japan in one go, because it is always almost linked together, the medical system and the pension system for the seniors. Since they are retired, they depend on the pension to support their daily living and the public health system to support their medical costs. Since those senior citizens have retired, they are supported by the pension system for daily expenses and the public health system for their medical needs.
Okay, I've been listening like a hawk for the last 4 minutes or so, and listening for something to stop you on. And it's all so good that there's nothing to say. Senior, you need a more you're kind of in senior, and not putting in a
senior.
But even more with it, especially because you've got a tendency not to put enough.
Senior. Oh. Senior. Senior citizen. The final R. Senior citizen.
That's perfect.